In this episode, we'll talk about Ratha Kalpana from the Katha Upanishad, where the human body is compared to a chariot. The chariot comprises of 5 things: the chariot body, reins, horses, charioteer, and the passenger, who can also be called as the owner of the chariot. The comparison of the human body with the chariot goes something like this. The chariot body represents our physical body. The 5 horses represent our senses: sight, hearing, taste, touch, smell. Reins symbolize the mind. Charioteer represents the intellect, and the passenger represents the soul. This model explains our actions at 3 different levels. Let us start with level 1. Without the charioteer, the reins do not serve the purpose. Since the horses take control, the horses may drift and go in a completely different direction. Similarly, without the intellect, the mind is ruled by the senses. Hence, our actions can be rash and impulsive and can take us away from our goal. Let us now look at 2 examples to understand this. The first example is from the Mahabharata. Yudhishthir was known as Dharmaraj, the king of justice, which means the one who has a sharp intellect to differentiate between right and wrong. Such an intellectual man gambles away all his wealth, kingdom, brothers, himself, and his wife when his impulse dominated his intellect. The second example is from the 2006 FIFA World Cup final, where towards the end of the game, a seasoned player like Zidane, who was captain of the France team, reacted violently to a comment and hence had to sit out of the game. The result, France lost to Italy. Let us now look at level 2. When the charioteer is in control, the reins serve the purpose of steering the horses to the right path. Similarly, the intellect guides the mind to stay focused on the goal by regulating the senses. So our actions are rational and goal-oriented here. Example: Indian cricketer Rahul Dravid is called the wall because he used to stand tall like a wall in between the ball and the stumps. If a bowler tried to distract him through sledging, he used to use his intellect over impulse by ignoring the comments and focusing on his batting. Intellect helps us in reasoning, analyzing, and decision making, which help us in our goals. Let us now look at level 3. The journey is pleasant and meaningful when the charioteer understands the passenger and takes the desired path. Suppose there are 2 paths, a longer and shorter path. If the passenger prefers the longer path because he has some important task to complete on the way, the charioteer should guide the chariot through the longer path. However, if the charioteer takes the shorter path, then the purpose of the passenger is not served. Similarly, if the level 2 intellect and the soul are not connected, the ultimate purpose is not served. The soul is our true self, our real identity. The intellect at level 2 focuses on the worldly matters, tilting more towards ourselves and our family. When the intellect connects with the soul, the quality of the intellect is at a much higher level. It is like whether a doctor sees his job as a lucrative profession or as an opportunity to cure patients. It is not about right and wrong. It is just the difference between the intellect at level 2 and level 3. For example, in Mahabharata, when King Bharat's intellect was at level 2, his focus was on appointing one of his sons as his successor. But when his intellect was guided by his soul, he appointed his successor on merit instead of relationship. Let us now look at another example from Mahabharata. King Pandu accidentally shoots an arrow and kills a sage. There was no witness to this. As a king, he had the power to suppress this matter. However, guided by his soul, he takes responsibility and accepts his mistake. So, our actions at level 3 are at a different level which can be inspiring. But at the same time, those who are very much into the normal routine of the world may find it difficult to emulate. For example, many are inspired by Mahatma Gandhi but find it difficult to follow his path. So, what I prefer may be different from what I am. Now let us summarize the 3 levels of action. Level 1 is reactive whims and pleasure driven action which can take us away from our goal. Level 2 is proactive reward driven action towards our worldly goal. Level 3 is reflective spiritual action towards a larger goal without any personal expectations. The focus is on the act more than the reward. So ask yourself 2 questions. A. My current actions are mostly from which level? And B. Which level would I prefer to be in?